Hello and welcome back to Florida Foodie. I'm your host, Lisa Bell, along with our producer, Thomas Mates. A lot of us dream of becoming our own boss. And about 4 years ago, one Central Florida chef decided to do just that, starting a food truck that quickly expanded into a brick and mortar business, bringing the flavors of high-end dining to the lunch crowd. So we are joined today by Chef John Colazzo from, not sure if I can say this, but I will, Badass Sandwiches.
You said it right.
Good. I wasn't concerned about pronouncing it. I was just saying it. Yes. So thank you so much for being with us today.
No, thank you for having me, guys. It means a lot.
You are extremely popular. You started out, we were just going over briefly some of your history, but really, your inspiration started out when you were a child, growing up in Puerto Rico. Tell us about that.
Just food in general. In Puerto Rico, we're very, very big, foodie centric, I guess, somebody died, excuse my, what I'm saying, but here's a sandwich, or here is, chuleta, or whatever. So we find comfort through food. You go to somebody's house and you better eat, because if not, the mom will be upset, or the grandma, So I was brought up, whether it's slaughtering, like I was telling you earlier, pigs to make the roasted pork, which we call lechon, or like, the morcillas, and make the pasteles, which is our version of a tamal, When I was little, I didn't think anything of it, but it's really cool now looking back, 30 years, or even longer, 35, because I just turned 41, oh my God. Anyways, it's really cool looking back, and I actually applied those techniques that I was brought up with now with my cooking, and we cook really raw, if you think about it, our sandwiches, and we're just very different, so I get inspired by it,
So in 2002, you moved to Central Florida. What prompted you to open a food truck called Badass Sandwiches?
After, moved to 2002, just, coming back and forth, to Florida from New York. I was a chef at a yacht. I've done consulting, pretty much up and down the East Coast for many years, new concept development, I found my wife, and I was 35 at the time now, it's 6 years ago actually. And she was like, well, you can't be traveling, you can't be working that many hours. She has 9-to-5 job. And I'm like, well, I'm a chef, But I think it was time, and we started looking for things, and nothing was appealing. I could not find a job for about 6 months. And we were on vacation in Puerto Rico. And she was like, well, why don't we just do something and open a food truck? And I'm like, I'm about 3 beers in. I'm like, ooh, how about we just call it Badass Sandwich? And she looks at me. She was like, that could be a little frowned upon. I'm like, well, how about if we just put an apostrophe between the two S's? It's not even a word, but we can work it out. We can make it happen. And little by little, people accepted us, which is nice. Some people complain about it, especially, people that have some sort of major in literature, et cetera, So it's cool now that we've been accepted in the community. As it's part of Orlando, I guess.
Yeah,
so I mean,
Orlando's pretty, loose and liberal, all things considered. So I'm surprised that you got so much blowback.
At the beginning, I did.
Yeah, like what were people saying?
For instance, we had a write-up, great write-up though, but they were saying about the grammar police. If the grammar police, blah blah blah. It was a funny thing, which is cool. And then also older people, the older clientele. You know what I mean? Now we were more accepted by the local younger crowds, but the older people were like, I don't know if I want that, and why made you put an apostrophe? And I'm like, well, it doesn't mean that we're bad people. It just means like it's a fun, cool concept. So I created a little word. And so far, it's been great,
Well, if people are sampling your food and their biggest complaint is the apostrophe in your name, I think that speaks volumes as to how great your food is. So tell us about Badass Sandwich. What sort of food do you specialize in?
Sandwiches.
Okay. What's the number one seller?
It's very difficult. Only because, people, they sell, or we serve pretty much the same amount equally across the board. But a lot of people give us a lot of noise about the Ninja, which is our pork belly sandwich. And if I take that off the menu, people would just flip out. So I can't do it. But
I guess for someone who has not been to Badass Sandwich, Thomas has. What makes your sandwich different from any other sandwich shop?
We think outside the box. You know what I mean? Like when I create a special, it was, again, an inspiration from childhood, or just because I want to eat it, to be honest with you, and it just happens to be that people just like them, you know what I mean? So I get fortunate enough that people enjoy them. So they're very unorthodox, again, we don't follow the rule like, you have to put lettuce, tomato, and this. No, we just make whatever and put it in between two pieces of bread.
What's
if you
the
think about it, you know.
what's the most oddball sandwich you've put out there?
The most oddball sandwich, about 2 years ago, I keep moving. I keep getting. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Stay up on the mic.
Okay, sorry guys. Is that good? Good. Okay. So about 2 years ago, we created a sandwich called the Bam Bam, and it was a beef rib. Have you seen beef ribs? How big they are? You know what I mean? Like probably about this big. So I wanted to create a sandwich just to put the bread and the beef rib, and you can just take out the bone yourself. But in order to achieve that, you can overcook it because the meat will fall apart. Or if you undercook it, it's too tough, right? So we created that, and what I did, excuse me, I salt cured the beef ribs for 20 days, and just because when you cook it, it creates this different texture. Again, it's a technique that I saw as a child. It's called carne vieja. They use the same thing for ropa vieja, where they take the meat and it's the salt creates the meat a different texture. I can't even explain it. You have to try it. But anyway, so people were like, the Bam Bam. So it was the beef rib with parsnip puree, blue cheese, French fries, and like red wine demi. But it was a different sandwich for the era here. Now you see it like Hunger Street Tacos. They do their version with the taco, with the rib, and you pull it out, etc. And to me, that was really oddball to sell because I'm like, how can I sell this to people? It's a beef rib. It's very primitive, if you will. You know what I mean? I don't know.
So your food truck ultimately transformed into a brick and mortar store. Tell us how that came about and how that's going for you.
It's going great. Again, we're blessed. Really, we're fortunate to have the brick and mortar. It came about. It's funny. Oh my God. I think we're about 2 years in with the food truck, and sales are great. But we find ourselves that we're working extra hard to keep up, with the trend, because the food truck trend back then, it was great. But yeah, I saw it dying. I'm like, what do we do to stay afloat? 7 Bites back then, they said that they were going to move. They acquired a location, and 7 Bites is well known in Orlando. And my wife used to go on her lunchtime to a gym nearby, and we would drop by 7 Bites. And she's like, hey, why don't we just open a restaurant where 7 Bites is at? I'm like, you're crazy. I'm broke. I had no money. I really didn't. I'm like, we're finally making it work with the food truck. We're doing great. We're great. But I'm like, I see myself. I'm in my 9th surgery now, guys, by the way, after opening a restaurant. So I'm like, you know what? Okay, let's try it out. We sent our portfolio to the landlord, the owner of the property. And he said, if there's somebody else already interested, I'm like, okay. But I was persistent. And he was like, you know what? The place is available. Are you interested? I'm like, yes, give me a week. But I didn't have any money. So I'm like, let me go to the city, because the city of Orlando, I know it could be a little bit challenging to deal with. Let me make sure that I can do our concept, and I'll get back to you in a week. So everything was great. Now I told him, yes. He sends me the lease. I'm like, oh my God, I have no money. So I'm like, okay, we have some money, but like, it's an IRA, whatever. It's to pull it out. It's pretty difficult. So we're like, you know what, we'll make it out somehow. So we gave him the deposit. We signed the lease, but 7 Bites was still going to be there for another 6 months. But at least we had the lease. It was ours. Now the next goal is, how do we get capital to open Badass Sandwich? I stayed up for 4 days applying for credit cards. And I did. And that's what happens. And I apply for every single credit card you can think of, even Victoria's Secret. So my wife is super grateful, you know what I mean? I'm like, babe, at least you got some undergarments, whatever. And that was it. And little by little, we bought everything. We stored everything in our living room, because I didn't want to pay for storage. And it took actually 8 months, because 7 Bites ended up delaying their departure. And we got the key, and then next we're here now. So.
And the timing ultimately was perfect.
The timing was perfect because exactly, we got ready financially. I didn't have the finances, and I didn't want to ask anybody for help, So at the time it was perfect, And next thing you know, it's like when you open the doors, I'm like, how can I pay rent, But it was really cool. Like when we did the soft opening on January 29th. Sorry, I keep moving. There was a line at the door. And I'm like, yes, I can pay the first month at least, you know what I mean? And it took us 6 months to open. We were already paying, actually, we were paying for 2 months before we opened. So,
And 7 Bites, cool. As you said, they're like pretty well known. So that's big shoes to fill.
It was, exactly. And that was my fear, because I thought, hey, I get the key, I just paying whatever. No. When I sat down after I got the key that same day, and Trina and I we were talking, we gave hugs. You know, she was crying. She was like, "This is, you know, it's emotional because she created an empire now." You know what I mean? So for me to take over that place, it was incredible. And so after she left, and I'm looking, I'm like, no. I have to change the whole thing around because she created such impact in the community. I didn't want people to come to Badass and be like, oh, it looks exactly like 7 Bites, and start to compare, and because people do that, you know. So I was like, I want to tear down that wall. I want to take out the floor. I want to do this. Mind you, I really had no money, but I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I hired somebody to take the floor. We put epoxy flooring, and I had somebody cut down the wall. And I had a lot of little angels, like I call, you know, a lot of little helpers in the area, which is nice. You know, so we were blessed to open 5 months later.
Yeah, we had Trina in, and I mean, was she like supportive, and did she help you out?
She gave me guidance, a lot of guidance, because she was there for 3 years, you know. So she wasn't, you know, hey, by the way, don't do this, don't do that. So I follow her guidance, but of course, you know how I'm a guy, so I'm kind of stubborn. So I still, you know, call people, hey, what do you think about this? And people agreed, which was nice. So it was great to have her on my side, to be honest with you. So
people who are listening or watching in the Central Florida area, where exactly is your restaurant located if they want to come check it out?
207 North Primrose Drive.
Okay, which is the Milk District.
Which is Mill District, exactly, yeah.
And how has that been? Because that district, like so many other pockets all across Central Florida, is really booming and becoming like a little foodie district.
It's really, really cool and exciting, I think, as a business owner, small business owner in the area. The way the areas are, like, I guess, unifying, like, you know, the little corners, hey, you know, it's cool, you know, because, hey, check out the Soto District, go check out the Mill District, the Hourglass, you know, the Mills District. So to me, it's really cool that we can just kind of like even market as one, you know, because even the Mill District, they have their own page. Mills District has their own page, you know, like Instagram and Facebook. So I think it's really cool. I love it, you know, to be honest.
I think so many people have thought about maybe opening a food truck at least once in their life, and you're laughing. So what would your advice be to people who want to maybe think about opening a restaurant one day, maybe want to start out with a food truck? What is your advice?
Man, just do your research, make sure that you really want it, and just be passionate, you know what I mean? And really, really want it, because you really, really want to have passion. Nothing else matters, to be honest with you. You know, the 18-hour days, you know, don't really mean anything, you know what I mean? It's super rewarding, you know, so if you think about it, you know.
So that's your advice. But what was maybe the biggest surprise that you encountered when you started out?
The biggest... Okay, I'm going to give you both, the positive and negative, right? The surprise, like eye-opening, insurance. Insurance is a big opener, because everywhere you go, you have to put that person. For instance, if I was going to serve food here, I will have to name you guys on my certificate of insurance. When we started out, technically the insurance should give you those for free. When I started out, I was getting ripped off, and everywhere I went, I had to pay $50 to the insurance company, plus I had to pay the city of Orlando, plus. So that's money, like $50 every time you go, and if you're going to go to a different address every week, you have to do the money. It's a lot of money, you know. So, but they're not supposed to do that, you know. And of course, we filed a report. I'm just being honest, you know, because they're not supposed to do that. So, do your research. Be sure of what you're doing. Make sure that your menu is simple. You know what I mean. Don't try to overdo it. Now, and that was the bad part of it, you know, because you don't know, so you'll learn by, you know, from experiencing things, right? Excuse me. The great thing is that I created something really cool. So. I'm not saying that we're not the best. We're not the best, you know what I mean? But we're great at what we do. I'm super excited every day. You know, I live a dream, if that makes sense. So that's a positive, you know. I work 10 days a week, I tell people. And people, huh? I'm like, I do. I work every day, you know. Work doesn't stop. I was actually sending emails before, you know, my surgery the other day. And then after my surgery, my phone didn't stop ringing, you know. So how
do you juggle that work demand with the rest of your life?
The urgency box, you know, if you're a manager, if you know what the urgency box, you know, urgent, not urgent, important, not important. So you need to be able to of course, delegate, you know what I mean, to your assistants and things like that, you know, or, you know, like I said, if I got to go to the bathroom right now, right? That's not in the urgency box, really. You know what I mean? You have to do this before you do that, right? So that's how I manage, and I try my best. And if not, tomorrow's another day, really, you know?
I know just reading from your bio from your website that you got started in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is not actually far from where I'm from originally, Scranton, Pennsylvania. But from
right
there,
there.
I know, right? You know the area. Yeah, dude, you're not missing anything. Sorry, Scranton. But anyways, I know from there you've gone to like Philadelphia and New York, these big cities. Not that Orlando's tiny by any stretch of the imagination, but they're usually the places where chefs go to be chefs.
Yeah.
That's where they kind of accumulate their bigger cities, food cities. What experiences did you have there that pushed you here, and like what do you take from there here?
Man, it's just. I worked in Manhattan. I'm sorry. I used to work for Restaurant Associates in Manhattan, and I loved it. But the stress to get to work and to get back home is just incredible. So New York, it's just a lot of work. You know what I mean? Like I lived in
Just to get to work.
Bayside, Queens, and it would take me about 45 minutes to get to work, and then about 2 hours to get home every single day. I did have banker hours. I worked only Monday through Friday, no nights, no weekends. It was incredible. I was an inside consultant for them, and I loved it. But again, if you want to be a chef and go to New York, it's just like I would tell people, really do your research, because just like you're gonna go if you're an actor and gotta go to Hollywood, to become an actor and be famous, right? Same thing with New York City and chefs. That's how I'm looking at it. I mean, good luck.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you really gotta work and be humble too, So it's difficult. So Orlando, I love it. I don't know. I just don't know so many people here too.
How has your menu evolved over the years from the food truck days to where you are now?
Oh wow. So we started with 6 sandwiches. The badass, of course, the ninja, the mafioso, the Garfield, and every school, every name has like their own little story, which is really cool. I love it, So we started with 6 sandwiches. Now we have over 90 in our vault. So what happens when I started with the food truck? We started with 6 sandwiches, and then I hired somebody else to help me out, and the menu evolved to 12 sandwiches. And that's the most we could do, because when you do events and you're selling 100 sandwiches an hour, you know what I mean, for a 3-hour period of time, it's very difficult, and we manage to at least keep each sandwich very unique, So I'm pretty much capped out. So what happens when I opened the restaurant? I had like a playground. I'm like, yeah, I got a charbroiler, I got 2 ovens, I got a broiler. You know what I mean? So I could expand the menu more. I can give people more things than just 12 sandwiches. So, and also to sustain and to, like you said, evolve. You have to evolve your menu because you have to evolve with the times, right? So that's what we did, and right now we got over 90 sandwiches.
And you offer all 90 every single day?
No, we can't do that. I wish. But I can tell you, let's say if you were to Badass about 2 years ago, and you tell me, hey, and I used to do the sandwiches like every week. Now we change them, like the specials every 2 weeks. Excuse me. If you tell me, yeah, I came over here 2 years ago and I had this sandwich with this, I'm like, yes, it was that sandwich. So I remember.
Yeah.
But we can't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
People do request, hey, certain sandwiches, and if they send me an email ahead of time, I will accommodate. You know what I mean? Because obviously it was that memorable for you to remember it 2 years from now. I mean, 2 years ago, right? From 2 years ago. So yeah, so
you have your staples, and then you
we
rotate
specials,
in and
and
out.
then we
I see.
rotate, yeah.
So speaking of evolution, social media has really played a huge role since
crazy.
you've been in business. How does that affect your business?
In a good way, it does, because people love to be interactive. You know what I mean? Especially at 9 p.m. when you post something, forget about it. That's the highest audience for social media, because of course, if you have kids, your kids are already fed, you already made them dinner or took a shower, whatever it is. So people are very visual. And our sandwiches being like that over the top, and sometimes we do a little clips, of cheese dripping or something like that. People react really well to that.
Yeah, because it makes them hungry.
Exactly. So it help us, to people see like, oh my God, I want that. And we try to put, again, our sandwiches are like more like some, well, no, they are not. They're more like, but they're really in your face. So we really get a kick out of it. A lot of the comments that people post in our social media is incredible. You have to read them because a lot of them are not PG, so I can't. But it's really cool in our fan base, man. It's been, like I said, incredible. And a lot of them, especially like I said, Instagram. Not so much on Facebook, but Instagram. And yeah, but we don't do much Snapchat. Just Do
you see any new food trends that you're trying to incorporate into Badass Sandwich?
Yeah, I've seen a few, but I can't discuss them, guys. I'm so sorry.
It's top secret.
My inspiration, I see, not top secret, but like I've seen like a lot of like I can't say anything right now.
Well, we did have Orlando
because
Foodie.
it's coming up. I'm sorry.
We
Go
did
ahead.
have Orlando Foodie Girl, who is pretty famous on Instagram here in Central Florida.
She's
and I know
awesome.
she's visited Badass Sandwich as well. But she was saying that one of the biggest trends she sees is a need for a vegan option. Can you see yourself going there?
I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it. And in talking about the subject earlier about food and the government, etc., right? Going back to the whole thing, when you try to eat healthy, it's actually more expensive, right? Than if you're eating meats or
Right.
you know what I mean. So that being said, I created a sandwich called the Swamp Thing, which the Swamp Thing is like from the 70s, like a cartoon, whatever. And it was a really awesome sandwich. It was our version. It was a vegan sandwich made with cashew rui. Rui is like a spicy sauce, whatever, made like mayo based, but we made it vegan and we made it with cashews. What happens? Cashews are very expensive. So for me to actually make that sandwich and for people to enjoy it would be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
That being said, when we market for vegan and things like that, sadly, it's not our highest market. When I created that sandwich, it moved. It sold. It was incredible. People loved it. People still ask about it. The reason I don't have it is because of that. If I was a vegan sandwich of that caliber would have to be $18. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sad.
How is the current economic environment affecting your business with food prices and meat prices?
Oh, food prices are horrible right now. You know what I mean? The pork, it affected us. We had to raise our prices. Unfortunately, not by much. You know what I mean? Like 50 cents, a dollar here, like that, to keep up because we were suffering. We really were. Especially now with the tariffs or whatever going up and et cetera. It's really, really affected us.
Yeah, big markets overseas aren't taking what they used to, and so
Yeah.
that's driving prices up here because they
Absolutely.
just have too much. And
Absolutely. And what happens? Even your purveyor, they send you emails ahead of time. Hey, get ready. But it's inevitable. You can't. In order for me to sustain my restaurant, I have to
Yeah.
buy through them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I cannot. I
Well, you
gotta go
can't
somewhere
stock
else.
up years in advance. You got to buy
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
have to buy fresh,
Yeah.
highly perishable products. Our meats, they're never frozen like everybody says, but it's true, So it affected us. So we had to raise pricing, and it was really cool. We were ready to release it to the consumer. Hey, a note, like a memo, rather, which we never did because we never got any complaints. People understood it, which was cool. But it was the first time raising pricing in 4 years. So
Now, do you ever take the food truck back out for special events? Can we see you anywhere besides the Milk District?
just for like catering and private events, yes,
Okay.
we do. Last time we did it was for Apple Inc. We do Medline Industries. I guess clients that we have, but never like back in the day where we just posted somewhere for lunch and all that.
Popping up all over the
Sadly,
place.
because I miss it. I really do. I miss those days where you have that human connection. You know what I mean? Every day. I think you need that, And I don't know, I miss it, to be honest with you, because I had a cook at that point, and I would be the cashiering and, asking everybody how you're doing, and people didn't know about us, and I would tell them what we did, and I was very interactive with people, but...
So I mean, as you're moving forward, and you might look to expand, would that be like the obvious way to maybe like jump up, like just have both running concurrently, or would you rather just like open up another brick and mortar shop?
We're working on things right now.
Oh,
which is
really?
nice, yeah.
Oh.
We're working-
Expanding.
yeah, we're trying to. I don't know. Can't say anything right now,
Are you-
but yeah.
Is it a little more financially stable than when you started?
Oh yeah. We're great.
Yeah.
We're great. Yeah. It's really cool how again evolving the restaurant like how we started out. I didn't even have a real kitchen.
Yeah.
I didn't have a hood system. We had we actually opened the side door and just put a fan. Because hoods are very expensive. So we finally installed the hood last year. Little by little. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to dig for some more
nice.
clues here. I would assume that if you were to open another business, you'd do it somewhere in the Central Florida area because
yes, of
people already
course.
kind of know
Absolutely.
who you are.
Absolutely. We had opportunities, like even other states, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not in a hurry.
All right.
But it's happening.
Yeah.
Again, the inevitable, right? People say, I don't know, the demand is there.
Or people
so-
even wanting to open a franchise wherever they live.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
As long as they abide by the rules,
Yeah, right.
I'll take it back.
So like, so let's just fish this way. Like, ETA. When can people expect to hear something?
Sometime next year.
Sometime next year. That's pretty good.
Cool.
So I gotta know how to be quiet. Because it's exciting. When I opened my little food truck, I just wanted to sell 15 sandwiches a day. It wasn't anything crazy. I just wanted to live. You know, I couldn't find a job for a while. The job that I wanted, you know what I mean? And I did it, and next thing you know, just when we opened the brick and mortar, I told my wife I just want to sell 30 sandwiches a day. And now we sell that in a matter of like 20 minutes, which,
Wow.
you know, yeah. And I still marinate the meats myself. I still do everything, you know. That's why I got carpal tunnel surgery.
What do you think
know?
the difference is? Because so many people try to open a restaurant, and so many of them don't make it. But you're, you know, one of the few huge, bright success stories out there.
Especially being sole proprietor too. Like, I don't have investors, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Only, just keep it humble. You know, don't live above your means. You know what I mean? Because in the restaurant business, if you net 20% of your gross, it's incredible. So you get it. If you net it 200,000 out of a million, that's a lot of money that's going out the door. You know, you're talking about insurance, you're talking about taxation, you know, payroll, obviously utilities, you know, maintenance. I just installed a new air conditioner unit that cost a few $1,000s, you know, just, you know. So little things like this, you have to account for, hey, let me save for a rainy day instead of taking this trip, you know what I mean? And we don't do that, you know. We try to live modest, you know. Of course, we have fun, you know what I mean? So my wife still has her job. I have this, you know. And our staff is great. So I'd rather invest in the company versus just becoming rich. It doesn't make sense, you know. So you also create longevity if you treat your employees right, because at the end of the day, they're here to make a living, right? I mean, if they're not making a decent living, they're going to go to the next place. So we try to keep our employees happy, you know. Of course, within
Good
reason.
employees
Of course,
are
within
key.
reason.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yes, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So you know, that's the key. You know, you just treat everybody fair and just live modest. So.
Great.
You know.
Well, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
coming in, and hopefully when the next one opens, you'll come back
Thank you.
and bring us one of
Will
your
do.
sandwiches, the
Will do.
Garfield,
The
you know, the
Garfield is
Ninja, whatever. Yeah.
This is awesome.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I
Thank
didn't know
you.
what to say. Hey, cut. I'm kidding.
Thank you for listening to Florida Foodie. We'd also like to thank our guest, Chef John Colazzo from Badass Sandwiches. You can learn more about the restaurant by heading to badasssandwiches.com. You can also find it on Facebook and Instagram. Be sure to follow our host, Lisa Bell, as well. Search Lisa Bell News on Facebook and Instagram, or Lisa Bell News 6 on Twitter. You can also find her children's books online at normangnomebooks.com and by searching Norman Gnome Books on Facebook and Instagram. Also, a big thank you to our technical producers, Derek Mosier and Ryan Hawley. I'm the show's producer, Thomas Mates. Florida Foodie is available to download wherever you get your podcasts. Please take the time to rate and review us there as well. And you can find video of all of our podcasts on clickorlando.com/podcasts.